thing that we want to look at, and this is what helps you to recognize when things are being presented to you that are completely false. Our basic knowledge and understanding of this type stuff is what helps us to recognize that they're false, that they're misinterpretations, that they're designed to take something that actually represents power and make it fearful so that we won't use it, or so that we kind of contract and pull back instead of expanding into situations. But it helps us to identify basic misperceptions. And from a geometric, sacred geometry type of, and numerology type approach, when we see that the basic unit of the true in mind exists as a pyramid shape that is represented by this, and then we realize that just as this one has masculine and feminine energy, each one of these as a gender, for example, also has masculine and feminine energy that exists in a pole like that, right? And you could probably already see this not only forms the square, the basis for the square, which becomes the cube that is born out of 6 sides, but this also forms the basis for what becomes the pentagram. Okay? Now this pentagram, or the star, we'll call it a star, within its sphere of influence becomes the pentagram. So what this tells us is this is actually a symbol of the basic structure of nature that says, as we just identified a while ago, that the one, the cap on the pyramid, so to speak, has the ability to control the 4 elements, right? This is symbolic of the 4 elements of air, fire, water, and earth. And air, I'll just go ahead and give you this version too. You want to notice, just as these two born off into pairs, earth and water are of the same, are natural resources. They're earth-bound, they're touchable, they're solid, more solid, whereas air and fire are, air is invisible, fire is like a lighting effect that is elusive, and of course fire needs air to breathe, to be born. So the air becomes kind of like the medium in which fire becomes the spark. And of course the water and the earth is symbolic of the final solid object of manifestation. Water is the emotional quality, or the fluid flow. Fire and water flow in a very fluid manner. Okay? Air and earth, air is completely invisible, and earth is kind of like what we could call the exact opposite. It's very solid. So we have the invisible becomes the invisible, fire, or the thought spark that hooks up to an emotion. And see, this is the other thing, is this represents thought. This represents emotion. Thought as an idea. Well, I guess we could call air the idea, the initial pattern that forms a thought, that hooks up to an emotion, that manifests as a physical reality. But so the pentagram, I have no idea where people get the idea of devil worship, but most people don't realize that the devil is actually only pertinent to the Christian religion and is what I call a Christian god. And in all other spiritual religions, we don't even have the same concept. I mean, all the other religions are based off of gods as the chakra system of different qualities of the one, right, that are available to us to embody as archetypes to become more godlike. So where on earth they get the devil, I don't know, or Satan as being this awful devil worshipping idea, is that if you're not Christian, you don't even have a concept of the devil. So I mean, it's not even meaningful. But the pentagram is actually a symbol of power. And of course this is very evident by the fact that all generals are marked, their rank is marked by how many stars they wear on their shoulder. The American flag has 50 stars on it. I mean, a star has always throughout history been symbolic of power. And of course the star, the sun is a star. So the star represents the sun, which is the illuminated, expressive, masculine aspect that reflects off of the moon, which is a satellite to the earth that is lit, doesn't have its own light, but it's basically lit by the light of the sun. But anyway, so the pentagram is actually demonstrating that the mind has the ability to control the elements by taking an idea, forming a congruent thought that hooks it up with a motion that becomes how it expresses or how it manifests into an experience. And it's trying to demonstrate, it's trying to give us the diagram that shows us how to do that, right? Sacred geometry, numerology, mathematics, hook up and form congruence with vibratory frequencies as colors that are also represented by the planetary aspects and where they're located or what angle they're affecting each other in terms of how they exist in relationship to each other. That basically, if we know how to interpret them, if we understand the basic nature of symbols, of different planes of existence that operate at different laws and principles, they give us very definite processes that show us how to do this, right? The way the mind has control over the four elements is by intuitively breaking down the air into the idea, the inspired idea. Fire is the spark or the thought that takes the idea and shapes it into a conceptual model that then hooks it up to water, which is the emotion that shapes the environment, that determines the shape of the landscape, that then manifests as an actual physical solid object as our experience. And that our experiences are born out of our own mind. So, but anyway, so that's kind of like the basis of taking ideas, breaking them down, and I won't go past 5. I mean, we could go on 6, 7, 8, 9. But it's just to kind of give you a basic idea for how to intuitively discern knowledge through sacred geometry, numerology, colors, symbols, images, all that type stuff that actually contain very sound knowledge in the sense that it gives it to us in a neutral state that allows us to see processes, allows us to know how to practice it, how to bring it into our life so that we can create experiences out of it. It's actually the basic formula for creating experiences as a way of becoming knowledgeable or having knowledge of something. So, but it also helps us to identify errors, identify misperceptions that can form whole trends in society, that people who don't know any better or that misinterpret their own intuitive reaction to things because they're identifying a partial aspect, because many systems that are born out of error actually have elements or like aspects of it that are actually true in nature, but they form a basic misperception because they don't perceive what the actual truth about them is. So they form this whole model or this whole paradigm that is actually completely false. So, it does a combination. It helps us to identify things, know truth when we see it, as well as be able to look at any situation, identify the universal principles that are operating, and be able to bring knowledge into practical application to create experiences or to actually use it to evolve ourselves and grow ourselves into higher and higher forms of expression. So I hope that was helpful to give you at least a basic idea. But we also, I do classes on all of this type of stuff, intuitive discernment of knowledge, the sacred sciences, as well as looking at the nature of words, colors, different type of patterning effects in terms of how to work with the subconscious mind, different things like that. But this will just give you kind of a basic idea to kind of chew on for a little bit about what do we mean when we say sacred sciences, what do we mean when we say intuitive knowledge, or the interpretation of knowledge that personalizes it, that type stuff, is because true knowledge comes to us in a neutral form, requiring us to interpret it. It doesn't come to us already interpreted. Hopefully that gives you an idea. So.